I'm
So
sorry. What did you say that was so amusing?
so you said you're ready to kick butt and take names?
Not today, but just I've got articles, even ones actually. Remember the last conversation we had was about how these things would be used for entry level type marketing stuff, and so they even got a name for that because they all jumped on that. All these AI companies are like, oh my God, this is the application that's going to save us. They call it SDR, sales something something. I forget what the DR stands for, but basically it's to replace, entry level outbound salespeople, right? People that do the general cold calling. They're like, oh, these things got to be able to do. How much brains does it take to do outbound cold calling? More than they got. More than they got, baby.
So we're talking about articles that we haven't reviewed.
That's right. Oh, sorry. Then let us go immediately to this excellent Washington Post or Washington Wall Street Journal article. Johnson and Johnson pivots its AI strategy, which I think will be a great case because I think both of us have read this article and came away with completely different
Right.
conclusions.
Well,
So,
let's start
So
with yours.
so so Mike, do us a favor and do your opinion second.
what I tell you about no piling on,
I'm not piling on. I was getting in advance.
and me too.
Go
Uh,
ahead, Greg. What's
No,
your opinion?
the closing argument is usually the one that has the most potential to be powerful, unless it's like stupid. But
Go ahead, Greg.
I, I think I just got insulted, but I'm too dumb to know.
no, it wasn't that.
Oh,
It was a warning that if you put the same crap you've been putting in email, then you're in trouble. But we'll see. Um, all right, so let's review the article. So the guy talked about how he had this boil the ocean strategy, right? And they had innovation from everybody in the whole company was getting a brief introduction to
A
uh,
thousand
generative AI.
applications.
1,000 points of light.
Yes, 1,000 points of light. And then he realized some of that stuff was sucking up resources from things that were really promising. And he started looking at, and I'm not sure exactly how he proxied for this, but what he was looking at was value realization. And I think there's had to be some sort of anticipated value realization, which is where I'm thinking, there's a little bit of black magic in that because it's somewhat predictive. But I think if you do 1,000 points of light and you go through a few duds, you do get a sense of what's possible in your environment. So I think you do learn. And so they learned and they said, okay, we're going to now put our eggs in some very specific baskets that are going to have a direct impact on our bottom line. And I think we agree that's a really prudent strategy, both the beginning of not closing any doors and learning and getting your whole team on board with the journey and saying, okay, I know that was fun, but we're running a business after all. And now that's what we're going to be focused on, is like we've always done, focusing our investments on places where we can generate the highest value. This journey that generative AI is putting us on is not new. The promise of dramatically improved business productivity has existed since the dawn of DOS. Microsoft was going to eliminate white collar workers with spreadsheets. In fact, they did. What we didn't realize at the time until it was too late was they also generated an army of more technical people to go in there and manage those spreadsheets. Just like when I helped Pacific Life hire, not hire, 24 entry level people who were taking in new business applications for insurance, scanning them with their eyes, categorizing them, taking out a stapler and putting different pieces together, and then carrying them over to another desk to drop down for someone else to take the next step. We built them an imaging platform, a workflow solution. We automated the new business process. This is in the 80s. And turns out we had to hire a whole bunch of programmers to manage the workflow system. if I recall, 6. So 6 for 20 is still a good trade-off, 24, something like that. But the 6 were at a much, much higher salary. And so, yeah, it's better, but it's never as revolutionary as the hype cycle wants it to be. But there's always a hype cycle, and there's always a trough of disillusionment with you, which you seem stuck in and committed to forever. And then there's the part where we actually realize the real expectations that are appropriate, and we reach we reach steady state. I forget what they call it, but it's when you realize value, and generative AI will generate tremendous value. It won't match the hype. It never does. And so I see in this journey the same journey that I've been through a million times, and there's nothing different about it. So that's my take. Cheers.
I was like, thank you, Greg. Shayna, you know what that's from, Mike?
Greg, you ignorant slut.
What is it from? Tell me the
It's
reference.
from Saturday Night Live, the old skit, point counterpoint.
Yeah,
And
remember 60 Minutes when he used to do point counterpoint?
Yeah.
And Saturday Night Live did the parody of it. And so Dan Aykroyd would, start off with, Jane, you ignorant slut.
That's pretty good. I think we need to make that a part of the show.
Okay, you ignorant slut, we will.
So Mike, go ahead. And
Well, I don't know. I'm still on this journey that Greg took me on. My God, it was wonderful, right? The history of innovation, his role in it, how he almost eliminated a bunch of jobs and then found
Mike,
that actually a
you
job.
cannot call them out on unsponsored commercials. Only when we start selling time on this.
Okay. Yes, I shan't, and plus I shan't mock my friend. So let's so many jumping off points there. First of all, let us disagree with this idea that the hype cycle is somehow part of innovation and therefore just must be accepted as part of the price we pay for innovation. It doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't.
I just said it's always been that way.
It's always been, and I would even argue with the always. I would say sometimes it is. It doesn't. It's a bad part of it, and there are easy ways to get rid of it. There's no need to go through it. I will say that the quote where it's like, "Oh, things are overhyped," and then everyone disbelieves you, and then you turn them around and you get it all fixed, and you find value. You know who said that? Put your hand down. Elizabeth Holmes Theranos. That was a line that she gave as well, as if this is normal. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I will come back.
So, Mike,
I'm sorry, Mr. Haywood. Your
I
hand was
disagree.
raised.
I think the hype cycle is real and a necessary part of any type of innovation. To the extent that it garners excitement, it generates investment, and it challenges those who are in the process and those who are contributing to it. To the extent that it goes overboard, I mean, hype can be all truthful. You need engagement in the concept, in the product development, the concept development, and the potential users and buyers. I think that's a necessary part that fuels innovation. To the extent that it's dishonest and leans toward hyperbole is a different.
So what I will suggest is that if it is a part of it, it's not necessary, and the companies that avoid it will beat their pants off their peers. And I'll give you a great example from this article. What this man did, this CIO, said, fine. What he could have done is, like a lot of companies do, oh my God, we got to get on this AI bandwagon. We're going to automate, we're Johnson & Johnson's. We're going to automate drug discovery, millions of dollars. Write the check. Let's go in. Hang on. Let me finish my point.
Because I'm going to save you a little trouble.
No, I'm not done. Let me finish.
I'm going to save you a little trouble.
Okay.
The fact that it's in the article is hype. and he's hyping their
No,
work
but he
and what
avoided
they've
the hype.
done.
No, yeah, right. He avoided the hype because he said we're not going
He's
to go down
talking
that
about it,
path.
Mike. It's hype.
But look what he did internally. Let me give you the counterexample first then. Remember when Watson came out and it was all hype? Oh my God, Watson just beat the chess master. It's a genius. Let's go all in on healthcare. They spent millions of dollars on healthcare. Waste of time. A year or two later, it was a total flop. Money wasted, time wasted. It was no way could they do Watson can do what a doctor does. These guys said, we're not going to go down that path. We're going to do a lot of little small scale experiments. You guys run off, do whatever you want, spend a little money here and there. 1,000 points of light. Now let's look at the results and see where we end up. And what I found, so lesson for our listeners, you don't got to buy into this hype cycle. There's smart ways around it. Two, look what he went to as far as what he learned from this. Quote, I'm still a believer that there's a lot more hype than there is substance. Fine, he may be talking about the article as well, but maybe he's been a little meta. But this is what a man who's observed 1,000 of different experiments at his company has come away with what AI did. And look at where they ended up. A sales trainer, some tool that's going to maybe do a chat bot and help people answer questions about company policies. That's what they got. Now, they said we might be able to do quote unquote drug discovery. And by drug discovery, they meant a very narrow slice of drug discovery and also supply chain interactions, which I think is a joke because anyone who understands supply chain interactions knows that that is pure cause and effect analysis, and LLMs don't do that.
Mike, I can tell you that probably the easier of the two is supply chain.
Oh no, never.
Yeah, because all it is just taking demand and supply and all those elements that foster demand and all those elements that determine the availability of supply. It's all historical, Mike.
Yeah, I think that's because you're using the sales guys' definition of what they mean when they say supply chain. And I'm pretty sure that that's not what they mean. They're talking about mitigating supply chain risk, which is around like a shortage of a raw material. Okay. And that's nothing to do with demand. That's all about a chain that says, oh, we have
So what are they using the raw material for?
that's the point, right? The chain is, oh, we've got a car. The car has an electronic subsystem. The electronic subsystem has a subsystem that does tire pressure monitoring. The tire pressure monitoring system uses a sensor. The sensor uses some ink that's on the sensor. The ink is made by this little manufacturer over here in this little country no one's ever heard of. And oh, by the way, he just changed the way he made the ink, and now our sensor doesn't work. That's what they mean by risk in the supply chain. And that's literally like almost like a true story where they've actually had these kind of low level supplier to a supplier to a supplier, and they make a change and nobody knows. Or unbeknownst to everyone, they're all using one supplier. There's one supplier who supplies the ink for everybody, and that guy's decided to retire and shut his company down. And no one realizes that he's supplying everyone, right? That's what they mean by supply chain risk.
And how is that not that beyond the scope of what the AI could do?
Because what I just said, that chain that I just gave you, that's a causal chain. And they've got paper after paper that shows that LLMs fail, generative AI fails at that kind of causal reasoning.
Which gets back to my criticism of your criticism of generative AI. You took a Sam Altman statement, extrapolated his forward-looking, optimistic statements about what he felt like he had within his sights to be able to accomplish, turned that into Sam Altman promised that generative AI will solve all white-collar job problems. That's where you started. And so with that as a backdrop,
He did say that, and that is what he meant.
You're able to say things like generative AI will not be able to solve a supply chain problem. And I've already introduced that the way that Altman phrased it, even though he's the head of the company that got famous because of generative AI, he didn't restrict himself to today's implementation of generative AI, nor did he restrict himself from surrounding generative AI with other smart tools. Not like the reasoning agent that you keep slamming because of its limitations and its new increased hallucinations. Logic. Logic, computer programs are extremely good at the causal chain that you described. Am I not? Have we already not solved this with an ERP system?
Preach, brother, preach.
Reach. I would say the answer is no, but you're on a roll.
So
Just to be adversarial.
you can't scan every part in your complete the BOM for your whole company and report back on every component that you find that has less than 2 suppliers listed in our database. You can't write that program. I could write it.
You could if the data was in the database, but what you have is in your BOM is you have, hey, our car has an electronic subsystem, and that's it. And we buy that electronic subsystem from Visteon, which is a company that we spun out many, many years ago, and that's it. Visteon has the data on, hey, that electronic subsystem has a tire pressure sensor system. Then they have another supplier who knows that tire pressure sensor system has a
Then
tire
take
pressure
the script
sensor.
I wrote, Mike,
Yep.
and move it to Visteon
Yep.
and run it on their systems.
And then run it on
They'll
the
be able
sub.
to find the risk.
No. I just said there's another subcontractor. So now you got to
Okay.
run it on Visteon subcontractors.
Okay.
System, right?
Well,
Now
we'll
you got
find a place
Yeah.
where we can learn the answer electronically as to which of our
No. You have to tie it all together. It has to be you now got to. You can do it. You got a distributed bomb. Is
Okay.
what you've got, right? Because now you got the main bomb, then you've got the sub bomb, the sub bomb, the sub bomb, and you're right. If you can trace that chain right through everyone's ERP system all the way down to the guy in that little town in West Virginia, right, who doesn't have a computer probably, and you can find out that he just changed the formulation on his conductivity. Yeah, you can make it work, but
No. It's too late when he changes things.
yeah.
You said that no one identified the risk that we only had one supplier.
Or
This
one
is
supplier,
not a
right?
business.
Yeah. So right. So
And so I'm
now,
saying we
yeah.
already have the capability to identify how many suppliers we have.
Well, remember, there's another piece of information missing. You now know that in your bill of material, you're using that guy by this miracle of following this chain all the way down. You don't know that everybody else is. You don't know anything at all about what GM has in their system and what GM's bomb is and what their chain is, or Chrysler or Kia, Hyundai, whoever. So that's
But
the
if
other
I'm
piece of
running the
information
supply
you need.
chain, if
Yeah.
I'm responsible for the supply chain of the parts that I use to manufacture goods, then I'm going to have to know where I'm getting those parts.
Yes.
I'm building a robust manufacturing system. I'm going to have multiple places from which I get those parts. Just like I when I talk to my clients about staffing our digital transformation initiative, you got to have at least a dual sourcing strategy. You got to have a multi-sourcing strategy.
Right.
And if you just think that you're going to hire this one team and they're going to take care of you for the next 5 years, you're wrong.
Right. So you got your dual sourcing strategy for your electronic subsystem. You're buying it from both Visteon and Delphi. Awesome. You don't know that Visteon and Delphi, 4 chains down, are getting their ink from that guy unless you chase both systems down. Or you could try it this way, policy-wise. Visteon, Delphi,
That's what you
I have
do.
a 2 for rule, you got a 2 for rule. Delphi has to now go tell their people, we got a 2 for rule, you got a 2 for rule, and they keep going 3 levels down until the person that buys the ink goes, oh, I need a 2 for, I can't just buy it from this guy. Sure. You could do it by policy if you want.
Policy is what keeps you from having to, in real time, react to it, which is your criticism.
Okay, but you just went from I've got it in a tool, Mike, and I can write code to Mike, I now have a policy and I'll make sure that policy is enforced. Different answer. See what I'm saying? I'm with you. But you just
I don't care. I started with one example and you drove it to policy and I said that's even easy. It's even easier.
That's a policy, yes, but now you've left the realm of generative AI.
I told you I was leaving the realm of generative AI
and programming,
comment.
And you've left the realm of policy. But thank you for making my point, which is that this example from J&J that they want to do something like that is highly unlikely to work. Just you and I, just
I
having this
thought you thought the guy
conversation.
was brilliant for whittling it down to the important stuff.
Look, I said he avoided the hype. He did his 1,000 points of light. He's
Okay.
got two that thinks he can do. He
Right.
said that fine, they seem to fit, not that exciting. Then he's
Right.
got two that he thinks are exciting that he probably doesn't realize that he doesn't know he can't do. But hey, what are you going to do? That's better than probably where he started. I didn't say he completely avoided it and that he's doing 100% everything right now. I said that hey, he avoided some problems and he's got like four things he's after. And notice there's two there that are real, and one that he's a couple that are like, and he'll probably find out pretty quick they don't work. That's okay.
Hmm. I'm not convinced that you remind me of the guy that was explaining to his friend uh, before the first airplane, look, man, it's impossible. And he jumped up and down and he said, look, I keep coming back down. What do you want me to do? Flap my wings? So he flaps his wings and he keeps coming back down. And he says, it's impossible. There's nowhere we're going up there. That's who you look like right now.
Could be, but I think that's because I think your argument is there could be an answer out there somewhere for artificial general intelligence, and I'm saying, okay, fine, right? Like
No,
if I said there wasn't an answer out there, that'd be wrong. But if I
right.
say I'm pretty sure that me swinging my arms up and down ain't going to be the basis of flight, I would be correct.
And I would agree with you.
And
I
I'm
would enjoy the demonstration.
Thank you. And I'm saying AGI is not AGI. Generative AI and LLMs are the equivalent of saying I'm going to get to AGI the same way flapping my wings, flap my arms like wings is going to get me flight.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
It looked like you wanted to jump in, Rob.
No, never mind.
Yeah.
And like I said, I got so many good examples. There's
Yeah.
so many. Oh, which reminds me on the related article, because I like the idea that we only have one topic. And so this other topic was somebody, right, that used to work for one of those companies, branched out on his own, has now said, my goal is to replace people. He said
Yeah, all
he's going
people.
straight out. All people.
All people.
And my valuation of my company is $23 trillion.
Yeah. Because that's the net income of every human being in the world.
There you go. There you go. Now you know.
Wasn't he just added in the staff position in the current administration?
He'll probably be hired. But there you go. And the funny part is, I mean, there's so many things about this, but what he's saying, a lot of the AI people are like, well, yeah, that's what everybody's sort of saying. Yeah, he's just being more stupid about it maybe than everyone else is, but everyone else sort of saying the same thing. It's like, hey, the game here is to actually replace people, right? So this guy is just being more blatant about it and pretty much more ridiculous about it. And he's saying he's give me $25 million or whatever he's trying to get. And he said, I know how to get there. I've worked for all these companies. I know the answer. Boom, baby.
Yeah. I got a kick out of that article.
Yeah.
There was something in it though that I thought touched on realism, and it's slipping my mind right now. What did he say? He was talking about didn't he admit that
Well, he did. Yeah, he did admit that he can only really. He's mainly talking about white collar work, not manual labor. He said that will require robots. That's harder.
I thought he said, I might have to pull it up. I'm sorry.
Right.
This
And
was
then
now,
and again, the article though, they always go to not this is not going to happen. They go to, oh my God, what will happen to us if we're replaced, right? If everyone's out of work because this man can do what he says. You go, dude, you got way bigger things to worry about than what this guy is doing. For at least another generation.
did you send it, Mike?
Yes, I did.
Because I had already seen it when you sent it.
What if I
Where is it?
am I quick enough to put the link in the chat? Let me see. Chat.
Because all I see is the one you said, new reasoning models hallucinate more.
There you
We
go.
haven't talked about that yet.
There it is. No. That's not for this. That's not for this topic. That's for later. That's for another topic.
A hallucination is for later?
Yeah, that's for another. That's me
Oh,
bringing
okay.
the receipts. That's for the later. I try not to
Okay.
overload you guys with the reading. That's for later.
Oh, geez. Okay, let me
But
see
I
this.
just I
Oh, it
just
was
put the
TechCrunch.
I just
That's
put yeah, I just put the link in there for TechCrunch.
yeah. What did this guy say? No, 60 trillion.
Hey Rob,
That's
that's an addressable market.
I think it'll be a
that's
huge market
every
eventually.
market.
Oh, here's the part. Good for human too. So completing automated labor can generate vast abundance, much higher standard of living, and new goods and services we can't even imagine today. But then they said, what if employers, whoever owns the agents, if humans don't have jobs, how are they going to purchase all the things that AI is producing? And here it is. Human wages in such an automated world should actually increase because such workers are more valuable in complementary roles that AI cannot perform. So he's admitting that he can't replace all human labor. Isn't that right?
Well, I guess he's saying that when I replace you, you'll have something to do because you'll be able to work beside this thing that just replaced you doing I don't know what something. I thought whenever I hear about these kinds of things, I thought the idea is that these robots, these agents, do all the work, and so that we can all just go contemplate our navels, become painters and
Well, he,
poets and
he addressed that
and
next.
writers.
He addressed that next. He said, even in scenarios where wages might decrease, economic well-being isn't solely determined by wages. People typically receive income from other sources, such as rents, dividends, and government welfare.
Yeah, there you
This
go.
guy's hilarious.
Yes. I'm telling you, his future is universal basic income and free
Yeah,
marijuana.
I think that, and a universal basic income did come out of Silicon Valley, didn't
I
it?
would say yes. I would say universal basic income, free health care, and medicinal marijuana for everyone. And we will be a well-medicated, healthy, happy bunch of artists, poets, writers,
My favorite,
intellectuals.
my well,
But
the point I'm making is I'm trying to bring it full circle. I think we did come to an agreement today that there is more hype than substance. And all I'm trying to say is that it doesn't necessarily have to mean that the promise of the technology is overblown. I think in this case, the technology really is bringing quite a bit of value. I think the way I think a more likely place where we will regret undercounting the the full impact of the change is the same as it's always been with technology, which is what happened with me with workflow and imaging,
yeah,
which is that for every person that you let go who still wants to do things the way they used to do and type in the names of all the companies, from the business cards of their executive when they come back from a conference, um, they're going to have a hard time finding work. They may have to reskill, but there will be one or two people in the background eventually, um, supporting the new way of doing things um, in a different role that we've not imagined yet. That's
keep
that's
keep
that's
keep
that and that
keep
role
hope
is going to
alive.
cost money and it is going to be a job for somebody.
Maybe you're right. I
It
guess
doesn't mean that you're not eliminating the jobs as we know them today
well,
because
well,
we
yeah,
do
but
do a lot of
but let's
repetitive
not leave
bullshit
the
work. We
eliminating
do.
job thing though, because I'm reaching back into my dusty memory of back in the 80s, and when Microsoft came out with Multiplan and Lotus came out with 123, I don't remember anyone saying we're going to replace accountants with this tool. Okay, because at the time accountants had these big ledger sheets that had a bunch of rows and columns on them, and they would write and fill them in. And what Lotus and Microsoft said is, hey, we can put that on a screen for you and you'll get all kinds of benefits instead of having to erase stuff and tape stuff. But nobody said we're going to put the accountants out of business.
But Mike, the reason that you and I had very high paying jobs in non-technology companies was because everyone's expectation was that this new technology is going to make my bottom line better.
You
And
can
in the
approach
back of
the
their
idea,
mind, that meant
right?
some of these people that are doing grunt work aren't going to have to do it anymore. In fact, it was the promise of the whole country.
It,
Our
it, it,
relationship with China was based on us up-leveling ourselves in terms of more white-collar work and less blue-collar work. And the problem was we just didn't elevate all those blue-collar workers.
so I disagree with you, Mike, in terms of like even the Lotus 1, 2, 3 example.
Okay.
There was a promise of productivity.
Okay,
In,
but
inherent
no.
in productivity
Okay.
is a higher IRI, a higher ability to
Yes.
scale, fewer cost and fewer cost components in the system,
Yes.
Absolutely.
and a
All right.
higher yield.
So do I
So,
think that
so that's
Microsoft?
implied
Right.
in.
Okay. So look, let me be clear. Good point. Do I believe that Microsoft is saying, "Hey, you can get rid of at least some of your accountants because the ones you have left will be able to work faster"?
That's good enough for
Yes.
me. Good
But
enough for
that is
me.
not the same as saying we're going to replace all the accountants because this
But
spreadsheet can think
but
like a person and do the work like a person.
but your example is flawed because it wasn't geared yes, towards accountants. It was geared towards the automation of calculations of, you know, are we gonna pout? Should
Are
I
we really
apologize that I
going?
said that
This
that
is being recorded.
your your argument was flawed? How dare you? How dare you? Mike, I'm sorry that you're in
Me,
ignorance.
Mike Ali, the greatest criminal mind.
Yeah, I tell you what, I jumped all on Lotus, and Lotus in my environment did not eliminate anybody. What it did, however, was it broadened our bandwidth and allowed us to do more tasks, to be more accurate, more productive. You know, and I think
There's actually books
if
on.
technology stays in those lanes, it there's no deception.
This is more disruptive than previous technologies. And that's what you guys better, I shouldn't say better. That's what I've accepted.
See,
This
there you
is
go. Thank
more
you.
disruptive. I've accepted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
And when I say I don't know how it's going to land in terms of business case, I don't know how it's going to land in terms of headcount. I do expect some reduction in what people are currently doing. And I do expect an increase in new things that people are doing that we can't imagine just yet. And I expect that change to happen, in a reasonable time frame, which these days is not necessarily 5 years, but something
so
less.
let's live in the world where we all agree, because I agree with that. When you
Oh,
started, yes, yes, I agree that this is qualitatively different. At least the claims are qualitatively different, and the potentiality is qualitatively different than what has come before.
then we're on the same page, believe it or not. I'm shocked. I really.
Well, I don't think this is going to be as big as you think, though. I think this is going to kind of bubble up and go down, and it's not going to be as big. You're saying, oh yeah, there's going to be ripple
So
effects
our
that go
podcasts
forever.
are done, and we can the last guy turns out the lights.
Oh no, he's still wrong. And this podcast will continue until the episode when I actually just definitively, absolutely put the nail in the coffin on this thing. And
Is the nail in the coffin going to be related to Sam Altman? That's all I want to know.
of course not. The nail in the
Okay.
coffin is going to be you saying, okay, I've been saying this has been coming now for 2 years and nothing has happened. And I
So
will
you're
say
committed to doing this podcast for 2 years just so you can get to that punchline.
2, 10, 100, whatever it is.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever technology this podcast is running on, when it becomes holograms.
So help me, Flintstone. I'll get you if it's the last thing.
When you and I are both in the same retirement home in LA somewhere.
Okay, Mike. I'll accept that challenge. I look
Yes.
forward to it.
No question. And just the retrospective, we actually finished the podcast on the topic. We were done like 8:20. We could have wrapped up at 8:20, 8:25. We went on because we added a topic and went on kind of
I
on
think
our
it's
own.
okay. It's fun.
Yeah, but we don't have to.
I still think as we talk to people that they need to understand that with all technology, there's going to be hype, and they have to take a discerning lens on what's realistic and what's not, and not accept everything. And the hype fuels innovation, it fuels investment, it fuels interest, it fuels use, and people even engaging in the product, the concept, the technology, so that it gives the developers, the innovators feedback to continually improve, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree with you. I think the Mike, I'll give you the last word and then we'll close it down. I think I like what you said. The idea that investors know what they're getting into. They've been through a million hype cycles. There's a bunch of disclaimers next to the envelopes they get in the mail about if you don't make over enough money where this is chump change to you, you shouldn't be investing in this product. And so that's a different. We don't have any responsibilities we shouldn't feel like this podcast is helping those guys make decisions. Those guys know what they're getting into. The problem is that same hype cycle that's kind of, I think, and I think Rob agrees, baked into at least the venture capital base. And by the way, you said greed doesn't drive innovation. I thought, what country do you live in, bro? Maybe not in Pakistan, but probably more so there.
I didn't say greed didn't drive
Oh, he
it.
did. He wrote it down, man. I have
Oh,
this.
Mike did.
Mike said greed doesn't drive innovation. I almost lost my
Oh,
lunch.
I'm pretty sure I didn't say greed didn't drive innovation, but I have to go back and look. But
Go
anyway,
pull it
please
up.
pray continue. Do we have to do this? All right, go ahead. Keep
All
going.
right, I won't do that to you because you're gonna be embarrassed. But um so where was I? So when it comes to the hype cycle and how it impacts people making decisions, we're now in a place where your data can be used against you politically to manipulate you. Your the devices in your home can learn things about your family and your personal life that can also be used against you. I'm not going to name any names, but there are certain billionaires who have access to companies, who own companies that have access to a lot of personal information that there's no reason why they would feel constrained from using that data in some of the weirdest ways in the world that they're trying to build, where people like them have total control over everything. So knowing we talked about pictures of people inside the car, putting that in the wrong hands after a few drinks on your way home, bad stuff. So the implications today of consumers being led by a hype cycle that's out of control um, are tremendous, tremendously negatively impactful. And so I think we're doing a good service is the first thing I'm trying to get to with that long intro. The second thing I'm trying to say is I think we did a good job today because I don't think we have to get down to the point where we said we dreamed of saying, here's what you must do. And I'm not sure if we're going to get to that. I think the open discussion that we had is probably good for folks to hear. And then they can draw their own conclusions and they can kind of pick up on the clues that lead to critical thinking. And I think that's good enough. So I think we did a good job today. All right, Mike, on you.
So yeah, I don't think we're trying to protect the investors. They're kind of on their own, right? I'm after saving the people who are affected either directly or indirectly by these overhyped technologies. So Theranos always comes to mind. They went to market. They actually harmed people because they claimed their tests were more accurate than they were, and there were people who actually got bad results from the pilots that were running at the different stores and almost got in very serious medical problems because the doctors were smart enough to say, wait a minute, I don't know if I believe this result. Why don't we test you again someplace else? That's how close some of these people came to getting some very serious medical interventions that would have been completely unnecessary. Okay.
Have have self-driven Teslas driven their drivers into brick walls?
Absolutely. They've driven them into trucks, yeah. But and their excuse is, well, we told you to keep both hands on the wheels. And so they blame the driver. The driver's like one guy was like he's like, my job is to push the Tesla to its limits, right? I'm a layman, but this is what I do. And so yeah, I regularly drive my Tesla without my hands on the wheel and stuff. That was
Well,
his thing. So he does.
one of the first ones that I recall reading about was the Tesla engineer that
Yeah, he was a
that
Tesla
turned
engineer, I think.
into a semi, correct?
Yeah. hmm Because it couldn't tell the difference, I think, between the Tesla. It was like a semi against a cloudy sky or something. It was
I
insane.
thought the truck had a picture of a sky on the side
No,
of
they
it.
said the sky was behind the truck in a way that somehow the vision
Blocked the
system
view. Okay.
got confused. But again, they blame the driver. They, well, we told him you have to pay attention. We told him, we told him, we told him.
But
So yeah,
what I'm trying to say is that you could think of those folks that make those kinds of decisions and end up with those kinds of consequences as victims of the hype cycle more so than even.
that's what I'm
Correct.
saying. I'm saying those are the people I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to protect the also collateral damage, cold fusion. They spent millions of taxpayer money chasing cold fusion. That's money that could have been spent on some other services. So I'm saying there are, and I gave a couple other examples like that. I mean, they're just so to me, that's who I'm trying to protect. And so I will leave with a paraphrase of the great Stan Lee that with great hype comes the need for great skepticism.
I concur with
Oh.
that.
That was the gong. What do you call it? The gong? Yeah.
All right, peace out, yo.
Go Lakers.